Some squid have left the oceans due to the evolution of new predators, including sharks descending into the abysses, occupying the same ecological niche as squid. This pressure has forced squid to either go extinct or migrate to other habitats. Thus, the walking squid emerged. In just 50 million years, it developed the ability to crawl out of the water and transform its long tentacles into feet. Although not entirely independent of aquatic environments, this animal must return to the water during the day when the sky is too clear. Therefore, it mainly ventures out at dusk, hunting small animals with its long tentacles and able to crush any prey with its powerful beak. The puncture octopus is a tiny octopus that has invaded the major freshwater rivers of South America. Its beak has specialized in the suction of blood from large organisms, with the sting being painless as it injects a tranquilizer while simultaneously sucking the fluid. It takes several days for it to become fully engorged, with its head able to swell up to 3 times its normal size when filled with blood. It is extremely difficult to dislodge, as it retains its 8 tentacles with suction cups that allow it to remain firmly attached to its host. The females lay thousands of eggs in the blood vessels of certain animals, and once born, the offspring drain the host of its blood before venturing into the freshwater. The nennuphar lizard lives up to its name, being a descendant of iguanas adapted to the amphibious life of marshes. It has developed large wings to move from pond to pond, but their particular shape allows it to blend in among the round leaves of water lilies. This camouflage protects it from predators that mistake it for a leaf, while also concealing it from unsuspecting prey that approach without caution. Additionally, it possesses a sort of beard on its neck that attracts small fish and shrimp that typically hide in underwater vegetation. It is also a cold-blooded animal, taking advantage of spreading its wings when floating to absorb warmth from the sun. Many large species went extinct during the Holocene, but crocodiles, being highly efficient predators, survived and diversified over millions of years. The sluggish crocodile is one of the most puzzling examples. Its lifestyle has led to an astonishing physiology adaptation. It lives in muddy ponds where any movement quickly clouds the water, so it moves as little as possible to hunt its prey. It has lost its limbs, moving only by swimming or crawling, and it has also lost its eyes, which are useless in these murky waters. At birth, these crocodiles possess eyes, but they gradually sink into the skull as they grow. They have also lost their teeth, consuming small prey without chewing. Do you remember the giant baleen gulks? Well, the species has thrived over millions of years, and one of them has become even more immense. Once flamingos, these animals have kept the same diet but have grown larger to deter predators from attacking them because, while feeding upside down, they were vulnerable. The colossal gulks, with its 25 meters in length, resembles the large sauropods of the Mesozoic era. It has undergone few physiological modifications since it has always had the same lifestyle, and its food source seems inexhaustible, slowly sweeping the water's surface to trap microorganisms and algae in its baleen plates. They can be observed in groups of 3 or 4 individuals, and their eggs are well protected in nests floating in the middle of lakes. When the phalangers departed from their arboreal lifestyle, their morphology underwent a metamorphosis. Varjul is a muscular animal that crawls through the vegetation of the swamps in Australia. It can make long leaps to escape its predators, and sometimes even jump on them to intimidate them, as its leap is rapid. Although the legs have not completely disappeared, they are tiny and under the skin, helping it to crawl. They eat the surrounding grasses and some seeds. They have very poor eyesight, but their bodies pressed to the ground feel all the vibrations around them. Some possums have remained arboreal, even forced to be so, as it's impossible for them to descend to the ground due to their very short legs. They have another unique means of locomotion among mammals, the multiplication of their tails, which they use as tentacles. They spend their time with their heads turned downward. The canopy of the swamps is dense enough for them to move everywhere without any problems, even descending to water points to drink, always clinging to branches. They have a small trunk-like appendage at the end of their snout to tear off leaves and fruits that they consume. The young of the females are in pouches to complete their growth and remain protected. In Asia, most elephants were captive, used notably for tourism, but the extinction of Homo sapiens was a blessing for these animals. They were able to return to the wild and adapt to changes in their environment, especially as over millions of years, the jungle in what was once called Bangladesh became an immense swamp. Elephants, already adept in water, saw their legs turn into flippers, making them resemble their distant cousins, the manatees. They retained their trunk to breathe while keeping their bodies submerged as they grazed on aquatic grasses at the bottom of ponds and rivers. Their imposing size is sufficient to deter predators, with the calves always staying close to their mothers who protect them. The dwarf manaphant is another species smaller than the previous one. Perfectly adapted to the aquatic environment of the swamps, it measures less than 2 meters long. Its size allows it to slip through submerged branches, making it less vulnerable to predators. Aquatic grasses also grow on its back, ensuring better camouflage. Its diet is more varied. It is the only known omnivorous elephantid, capable of expanding its resources, which has allowed it to survive in other regions of Asia. They live in small groups, and their tusks enable them to scrape the bottoms of ponds to find small organisms or to uproot aquatic plants. "45 million years ago, there existed a species of bat that fished for fish but was still a flying animal that returned inland to rest. The paypeck, however, is much more marine and actually occupies the ecological niche of the Holocene penguins. Its wings have become thicker and transformed into flippers, rendering flight impossible. Now, its priority is fast swimming to catch fish and squid. The overall profile of the animal is better suited to the marine environment, with an oblong body very similar to that of penguins. They live in large groups on the beaches of the northern hemisphere. What sets them apart from birds is their thick fur and the fact that they do not lay eggs. The quadrupedal birds had to adapt to changes in their environment, such as the grolphin, which ventured into the marine environment. It is a proficient swimmer that uses its beak to navigate in the ocean, employing the same echolocation technique as the Cenozoic dolphins, with the melon located at the tip of its beak. It only returns to the beach to lay its eggs, as its hind legs oriented backward prevent it from standing upright on land. The animal's wings still have feathers, and its feet are webbed, aiding it in maneuvering quickly in shallow waters. The killer of the sea is a descendant of otters and has become a formidable predator. At 3 meters long, they are not particularly large, but they are extremely violent and feared by the surrounding fauna. They could be compared to the honey badgers of the savannas of the Holocene, as they are capable of attacking animals much larger than themselves alone. They eat almost anything they find, and with their large claws at the end of their forelimbs, they can tear through the toughest hides, open all bivalve shells, and crack any carapace. They rarely leave the water, and their lifestyle is comparable to that of leopard seals. Most squids have remained marine animals, living mainly in the abyss where sunlight never reaches. All of them have been capable of bioluminescence for millions of years, using it to attract prey and communicate with their peers. But things have become more complex. The lightning tree squid has fractal tentacles, each ending in multiple bioluminescent spots with different colors. Some specimens have more than 8 different colors, which seems to come from a hierarchy within the groups where the more colors a squid has, the more important its role. The combination of certain colors also plays a role in choosing which prey to lure. The umbrella shrimp is a small shrimp that feeds on phytoplankton. As the continents have shifted, ocean currents are no longer the same as during the Holocene. The two Americas have once again separated, opening a passage between the Atlantic and Pacific, and in this zone, the former Caribbean Sea, once calm, has become an area where currents are strong and tangled. The shrimp has adapted to this by sacrificing one of its claws, which has become a sort of umbrella. With this adaptation, it allows itself to be carried by the marine currents, conserving maximum energy. Its food source is also carried by the currents, making it convenient for this small shrimp to feed without having to swim. Sea cucumbers are abundant animals in the ocean depths, all feeding on the same source, including plankton, detritus, dead animals, or excrement from pelagic fauna, essentially acting as the cleaners of the oceans. However, competition is fierce among them, and these animals thrive by demonstrating ingenuity to maximize their proliferation. Take, for instance, the peafowl sea cucumber, which has developed 2 large fans around its mouth to capture more food. Its mouth is also positioned at the top of what could be considered a neck, further increasing its chances of obtaining sustenance. Many sharks have diversified over time, and Dyson has become a rather unique filter-feeding shark. It keeps its head constantly downward to suck up the seabed in search of small organisms hidden in the sediments. Its mouth is widened to maximize nutrient intake and is composed of thousands of tiny teeth that grind sand and shells. Many inedible items are swallowed in the process, but in the intestines, everything is gathered into dense pellets that are then expelled. The animal is blind and entirely black, making it very difficult to discern in the abyss, protecting it from predators. The abyss is a stable environment where inhabitants evolve very slowly. Mesozoic abyssal fish were already similar to those of the Cenozoic era, and even 50 million years later, their appearance adapted to this hostile environment remains similar. However, during the Anthropocene, humans destroyed much life in the deep sea due to their activity, leaving vacant ecological niches at their extinction. The giant gyre, descendant of the abundant rat-tail fish, has become large enough for the family to which it belongs and closely resembles the long-extinct Sacopharynx. It has an expandable stomach that allows it to eat prey much larger than itself, an advantage in an environment where encountering another animal is rare. Tunas are still present in the oceans of the future. These large fish hunt smaller animals and are preyed upon by many predators. Few genus are able to live beyond 10 million years, and these fish, perfectly adapted to their environment, have exceeded 50 million years, evidence of their high level of adaptation. They live in large schools near the water's surface, and due to their size, they have nothing to fear from predators that may come from outside. They are very fast fish, capable of swimming at speeds of over 80 km per hour, and even reaching speeds of over 140 km per hour to avoid being eaten. The pelagic turtle is a descendant of soft-shelled turtles, once inhabitants of freshwater environments but now marine, mostly living near the water's surface in continental waters. It is one of the few viviparous turtles, no longer returning to the beach to lay eggs, an adaptation to a marine life. Its limbs have evolved into flippers, making it more similar to sea turtles. It can dive to depths of over 200 meters, but it is still a warm-blooded animal that needs the warmth of the sun to regulate its body temperature. For this reason, it spends a lot of time floating motionless at the surface, carried by the currents. The ryotords are seabirds that primarily feed on fish. They have lost the ability to fly, with their wings having evolved into flippers. They are very fast underwater, capable of swimming at speeds exceeding 60 kilometers per hour, making them formidable hunters. However, they can still come ashore onto beaches or rocks. On land, they move somewhat like seals, using their webbed hind legs to help them run and even jump. They have a reputation for being territorial and quite aggressive, even towards members of their own species. Battles for hunting territory or mates often result in the death of the loser. Eggs are laid under the sand of beaches, and once hatched, the chicks never see their parents. They must quickly make their way to the sea to seek protection among large algae or rocky formations, but few survive to adulthood. For millions of years, penguins have been swimming in the oceans, and their adaptation to this marine environment has eventually made them completely dependent on it. Over 50 million years, the baleen penguin no longer returns to land at all. Instead, it has become viviparous, giving birth to fully formed babies. These offspring will follow their mother for the first 5 years of their lives, learning to surface for air and feed on plankton with their baleen plates. Many whales became extinct during the sixth extinction of the Holocene, opening up a new ecological niche for penguins, which were already well adapted to the oceans. Furthermore, the ice floes that were their natural habitat had disappeared, forcing the birds to remain in the water. Unlike many birds, petrels did not go through the quadrupedal stage that many families experienced, which filled the ecological niche left vacant by the extinction of mammalian megafauna. Petrels have always been close to marine ecosystems and did not need to go through the terrestrial stage. However, their wings have become very powerful and are used not only for swimming but also for catching very large prey. The peleroc is a very large predator, similar in size to the pliosaurs of the Mesozoic era. They are solitary hunters and only come into contact with their own kind for mating. Surprisingly, given their physiology, females must crawl onto beaches to lay their eggs, and despite their imposing size, they are vulnerable to coastal carnivores that take advantage of this opportunity to attack them. The marine molos has evolved independently of the pepec towards the marine environment, and they do not resemble each other as they occupy different ecological niches. These bats do not go on land. They have very small teeth and only eat soft animals such as jellyfish or mollusks. Their wings, transformed into flippers, help them swim at very high speeds, over 100 kilometers per hour when they reach top speeds. The animals they hunt are rather slow-moving, so their speed is primarily used to escape predators. They live in large schools of several dozen individuals when food is abundant around them. The shieldops, descendants of sperm whales, are among the few cetaceans to have survived the sixth extinction of the Holocene. With their 10 meters in length, they are slightly smaller and live around Antarctica, a region where ice forms in winter. This is why they have developed a huge shield on their heads, which allows them to break through thick layers of ice that could prevent them from surfacing to breathe. These animals live in small groups and hunt small prey. Their small mouths limit the size of their prey. The reef whale is another descendant of sperm whales, even more puzzling, being giants that can exceed 50 meters in length. They spend almost their entire lives vertically, with their heads downwards. Their metabolism is extremely slow, and they can hold their breath for several days. As all their movements are slow, an entire ecosystem develops on them, including corals, sponges, barnacles, and these organisms contribute to the maintenance of their host. They attract plankton, and the sessile animals fused to the giant cetacean allow for a transfer of nutrients and oxygen. The more loaded with reef a whale is, the less it needs to surface to breathe. With a lifespan of almost 800 years, the oldest ones eventually no longer need to move at all and remain immobile vertically until their death.